It's really a description of my journey learning how to do things better myself and how to help other people do the same, how to coach people. It's an accurate description of how something that had been staring me in the face for so long and I just hadn't seen, and how when finally you recognize this thing, if you like, then you kind of go, how come I didn't see it before? And it was a paradigm shift for me that impacted everything I did. Without these three principles, it's really tough to put all our capacity to work, to put all the knowledge we have about performance to work. Traditionally, most of us would approach performance improvement by saying, I need to learn something more, I need to have some new knowledge. And the blinding glimpse for me was to understand that there are other factors involved, and that chapter describes those other factors. Interference is something that blocks everybody from doing their best stuff. I've never met anybody that would perform well when they have interference, and so the more you can reduce it, the more you release what you're capable of. GROW is an acronym for a process that helps systematically reduce interference, and it's applicable across the board, whether it wouldn't matter what the activity is, there's a role for using that to basically to change the mental state. Before you can coach for breakthrough, you have to get somebody engaged and willing to be coached. And so the distinction I make is that there's coaching for breakthrough, which is when somebody is willing to engage and they are aware that they need some help. Coaching for engagement is what you do when somebody is either unwilling to engage and or unaware that they need help. Coaching, in my mind, has a much broader application than many people recognize. And the chapter helps you understand the many different circumstances that you could be using this material. Coaching for engagement is where someone is, even if they whether they recognize there's an issue or not, they have less willingness to work on it. And so the first step before you can coach them is to get them to be willing to engage with you on problem solving. Teams and organizations are kind of aggregates of all the individuals, and so that you can use the same models to figure out solutions for the same kinds of issues that show up in those circumstances. You can use the models to understand what needs to be addressed, and you can also use them as a means of addressing it. So to understand it and then get to some action to deal with it. They get where they're going quicker and they get there more accurately because it changes the quality of the thinking and the dialogue that needs to go on to figure out solutions. It's drawn from people who have used the material in all kinds of different areas in their lives. So these are real examples of how people have used it. What people tell us is it's a kind of wake-up call because they discover, they hear or they read examples of how people have used it in areas they'd never have thought of. It takes the most common issues people have had as they try to use this material and answers those questions for them. So the most common questions that we've had as we've shared this material with people, that's what's in that chapter. It's a true story, and it's one example of what makes me so passionate about this material, of someone who nobody thought could do what they did and managed to achieve great heights. And it's a great example of putting this material to work.
Overall, what do you hope the contribution of the book is?
I hope it'll do for others what this material has done for me and everybody I've been able to work with, which is to open the doors of possibility in terms of their own performance.